Before the office lights dimmed for the evening, Daniel was already saving the last spreadsheet on his computer. Around him, keyboards clicked lazily as coworkers drifted into conversations about dinner reservations, concerts, and weekend plans. Someone across the aisle laughed about a dating app match. Another complained that her boyfriend had forgotten their anniversary. The chatter floated through the open office, light and carefree, but Daniel stayed focused on the glowing numbers on his monitor until the file finished uploading. He rubbed his tired eyes and reached into his desk drawer for a faded family photo. It had become a habit. Every evening before leaving work, he looked at the picture for a few seconds. It showed a younger version of himself standing beside his wife, Emma, both smiling as they held their tiny daughter, Lily, who couldn't have been more than a year old. The edges of the photograph were bent from years of being carried around, but he never replaced it. The wear reminded him that love wasn't meant to stay perfect. It was meant to endure. He slipped the photo back into the drawer and checked his watch. 5:23. If traffic stayed light, he could pick Lily up from the after-school program by 6. She hated being one of the last children waiting. She never complained, but he could always see the relief in her eyes when she spotted his old blue sedan pulling into the parking lot. He packed his laptop into a backpack whose zipper had been repaired twice. Buying a new one wasn't a priority when school shoes, groceries, and piano lessons came first. "Leaving already?" Mark called from the next cubicle. Daniel smiled politely. "Yeah. Got somewhere I need to be." "You always do," Mark teased. "One day we're going to find out you've got a secret girlfriend." The nearby employees chuckled. Daniel laughed with them, though it sounded quieter than theirs. "If I did, she'd probably be upset that I keep canceling." "See," another coworker said. "That's exactly why you're still single." Daniel only shrugged. He had learned long ago that explaining himself usually invited more questions than answers. As he slung the backpack over his shoulder, he heard a familiar voice behind him. "Daniel, could you stay for a minute?" He turned. Evelyn Hart, the company's regional director, stood near the conference room holding a folder against her chest. She was known throughout the office for her sharp mind, impossible standards, and ability to notice details everyone else overlooked. "Of course," Daniel replied. The conference room overlooked the city skyline. Sunset painted the buildings in shades of orange and gold, but Daniel barely noticed. His attention stayed fixed on the clock mounted above the glass wall. 5:26. Evelyn gestured toward a chair. "Relax. This isn't about work." Daniel sat cautiously. She remained standing for a moment before taking the seat across from him. "I've been meaning to ask you something." He waited. "I hope you don't think it's too personal." He offered a small smile. "I'll let you know." She laughed softly. "I've worked with you for almost 3 years." "That sounds right." "In those 3 years, you've never joined us for drinks after work." "No." "You skipped every holiday party." "I did." "You turned down every attempt anyone made to introduce you to someone." Daniel rubbed the back of his neck. "I guess that's true." Evelyn leaned forward. "Why?" He looked at her without speaking. "I don't mean to pry," she continued. "It's just, everyone wonders." Daniel gave a quiet chuckle. "I'm sure they do. I've heard every theory imaginable. I'm afraid to ask. They think you're secretly wealthy." He laughed. "I wish. Someone insisted you're an undercover government agent." "Definitely not. And one person thinks you're still hopelessly in love with an ex." The smile slowly faded from Daniel's face. For a moment, he simply stared at the polished wooden table between them. Evelyn immediately regretted mentioning it. "I'm sorry. You don't have to answer." "No," Daniel said gently. It's okay. Silence settled between them. Outside the glass walls, employees gathered their bags and headed toward the elevators. Daniel watched them disappear. Finally, he spoke. My wife died 6 years ago. The words were calm, practiced, almost too smooth. Evelyn's expression changed instantly. I didn't know. Most people don't. I'm so sorry. He nodded once. So am I. Neither of them spoke for several seconds. When Emma passed away, he continued quietly, our daughter Lily was 4. His eyes drifted toward the fading sunset. Children don't understand death the way adults do. Evelyn listened without interrupting. She didn't ask why Mommy wasn't coming home. His voice became softer. She asked if I was leaving too. The sentence lingered in the room like an echo. Daniel swallowed. I'll never forget that night. He smiled sadly, though there was no happiness in it. She climbed into my lap wearing her little pink pajamas. She wrapped both arms around my neck and asked, Daddy, are you going away like Mommy? His fingers tightened around each other. I told her no. He blinked slowly. I told her I'd always come home. Evelyn felt a heaviness settle in her chest. Daniel continued. Then she asked another question. He paused. If you get another Mommy, will she love me? He let out a quiet breath. I didn't know how to answer. His eyes glistened. So instead I promised her something. He looked directly at Evelyn. I promised she'd never have to compete for my love. The room fell completely silent. I decided that until Lily was old enough to feel secure, I wouldn't date. Evelyn whispered, 6 years? Daniel nodded. People think I'm lonely. Aren't you? He smiled, tired but sincere. Sometimes. The honesty in that single word struck harder than anything else he had said. But loneliness isn't the worst thing. He stood, glancing once more at the clock. 5:38. The worst thing would be seeing my daughter wonder whether she's becoming second place. He picked up his backpack. I can survive eating dinner alone. His smile grew warmer. But she shouldn't have to wonder whether her dad still chooses her first. Evelyn couldn't find a single word to say. Daniel reached the door, then turned back. I should go. Your daughter? He nodded. She's waiting. With that, he quietly walked out of the conference room, leaving Evelyn staring at the empty chair across the table, her heart unexpectedly heavy. For the first time, she understood that the man everyone believed was avoiding love had actually been honoring it every single day. The next morning, Daniel arrived before most of the office. The parking garage was nearly empty, and the quiet suited him. Early mornings were the only part of his day that truly belonged to him. Once the workday began, he would become an analyst responsible for reports, deadlines, and meetings. By late afternoon, he would become a father racing the clock to reach his daughter before the after-school program closed. Between those two roles, there wasn't much room left for anything else. He carried a paper cup of coffee in one hand and his old backpack over his shoulder. As he reached his desk, he noticed something sitting beside his keyboard. A small brown paper bag. There was no name on it. Curious, he opened it and found a warm blueberry muffin and a handwritten note. For the guy who always skips breakfast. Don't argue. E.H. Daniel smiled despite himself. He looked toward Evelyn's office. The blinds were still closed. That's new. He turned to see Mark walking toward him with his own coffee. What is? You smiling before 9 in the morning. Daniel folded the note and slipped it into his drawer. Someone left breakfast. Mark glanced at the paper bag. See? Secret admirer. Daniel shook his head. I think it's just a manager trying to keep an employee alive. Mark laughed. Same thing. The office slowly filled with people, and soon keyboards began clicking, printers hummed, and phones rang. Daniel buried himself in work, moving from one spreadsheet to another with quiet efficiency. At exactly 10:30, his phone vibrated once. He never ignored that vibration. It was the special notification tone he had assigned to Lily's school. He immediately picked up the phone, his pulse quickening. Instead of the school office, it was a video call from Lily. He answered at once. The screen filled with the face of an 8-year-old girl whose curly brown hair looked as though she'd forgotten to brush it after recess. Her bright smile erased every trace of tension from Daniel's face. Daddy. Hi, sweetheart. I only have 2 minutes. Then we'd better use them wisely. She giggled. Guess what happened? You became president of the school? No. You discovered dinosaurs are alive? Daddy. What? I got a gold star in reading. His eyes widened dramatically. A gold star? She nodded proudly. My teacher said I read the whole chapter without stopping. I knew you could. I was nervous. Were you brave anyway? She smiled. Yes. That's what matters. Lily leaned closer to the camera. I made something. She held up a folded sheet of construction paper decorated with crooked hearts and glitter. It's for you. For me? You can't open it until tonight. I'll follow the rules. You promise? I promise. She looked satisfied. Then her expression softened. Are you eating lunch today? Daniel laughed quietly. Yes. Not just coffee. He hesitated just long enough for her to narrow her eyes. Daddy. I'm having a muffin. And? A sandwich. She smiled. Good. He couldn't help laughing. When did you become the parent? When you forgot breakfast that one time. I've created a monster. No. A tiny boss. She grinned proudly. Before either of them could say more, another child called her name in the background. I have to go. Okay. I love you bigger than the moon. Daniel smiled, feeling the familiar warmth spread through his chest. I love you bigger than every star. She waved enthusiastically before the screen went dark. For a moment Daniel simply looked at the blank display. Then he slipped the phone back into his pocket. Only when he looked up did he realize Evelyn was standing near the entrance to his department. She hadn't interrupted. She hadn't spoken. She had simply witnessed the entire conversation. Daniel felt slightly embarrassed. I'm sorry. She looked, because in a few hours, another promise was waiting for him in the form of a little girl who believed, without a shadow of doubt, that her father would always come home.